Is Luisangel Acuña about to be a major fixture in the 2025 Mets?
Vito, I think that Luisangel Acuña is here to stay, and there's many reasons why. Number one, the defense. He's been playing incredible defensively, and he is versatile. There's been talk about possibly moving him to the outfield. We'll see what the Mets' plan is, but he can play either position and play them well. And at the dish, he's done a great job. On-base percentage over 450 last 6 games. He's come up with clutch hits. He's stealing bases. He is doing everything this Mets lineup needs at the bottom of the lineup, giving the big bats atop the lineup a chance to hit with runners on base. I think Luisangel Acuña is here to stay.
Welcome to Meet at the Apple, presented by PC Richard & Son. Now, John, we are recording this right after the Mets take a series loss against the Minnesota Twins. Not the thing we wanted to see, not the baseball we wanted to see over the last few days. And I'm sure we're going to talk about how we're both feeling about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we
do this.
That's why we do this. It's why you guys listen. It's why we talk together when we see each other, when we comment back and forth, interact on Twitter. I think it's fair to say that the team plane chartering from Minneapolis back to New York as the Mets get ready to start a 7-game homestand, feeling very similar to the way that we feel, to the way that the fan base feels. You know, after taking 2 of 3 in Sacramento, you go to Minnesota, what was a last place team. You're thinking you're going to come out of there with the series win, and you don't, especially after taking the opener the way the Mets did. A lot of positives, I think, that we could talk about, but ultimately, it's tough, like you said, to not at least get a series victory. On Wednesday in particular, a lot goes wrong. The Mets don't get some calls. They get the short end of some calls. They still managed to come back for the first time this year. We felt that Mets magic, I think. Well, you had it a little bit against the Blue Jays, but not a 3-run deficit in the 8th inning like the Mets did on Wednesday. They scrap back. They score 3 runs. You go to extra innings. You have first and second, nobody out. Then Jesse Winker hits into the double play. Nimmo pops out. First batter, Ty France ends the ball game, and the Mets are on their way back to New York with a loss. So, yes, a very, very deflating series, I think. Like I said, positives. But, yeah, overall, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. Like, look, I know a lot of people say that we only talk about the positives. We only say nice things. But, like, at the end of the day, we're both fans of this team, and we both grew up fans of the team. And sometimes we're just going to say that wasn't a fun day. Like, the last 2 days of watching games, I wasn't having a good time. It was very frustrating.
And I think a lot of self-inflicted errors. You know, Lindor makes the error that leads to 2 runs on Tuesday. Now, look, say what you want. Francisco Lindor going in front of the media, taking full credit, not credit, but full responsibility for that. Second time he's done so. He did the same thing in Miami. And he even recalled that Miami game and said, hey, this is the second time I've done this now. Cannot happen.
His words were unacceptable.
So what you want to see, what you want to hear from your leader, love that. But as Mendy said after the game, you take your chances with him. 9.9999 times out of 10.
Yeah.
With him at shortstop, it's going to work out for you. Same goes with Juan Soto in a bases-loaded spot. On Wednesday, hits into a double play, an unassisted double play.
You know what I also want to say? Like, we talked about this last week. We were going through a period where early in the season where everything was going right for the team, right? And we were saying that, like, just like last year, how everything was going wrong, every single thing going right, the ball falling in the right spot, guys on the other team making mistakes, that's not going to last forever either. You're going to have games like these last 2 days where sometimes it just doesn't fall in your favor.
Yeah.
Sometimes Harrison Bader makes a diving catch and turns into a Mets. Sometimes you get a guy that you love and you think you have a nice friendship with, and then he becomes a Mets killer.
Well, not just a diving catch. Bader had 5 hits, a stolen base, timely steals. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was extra motivated to face his former
100%.
team that obviously let him walk as a free agent after his year in New York last year.
He did good against the Yankees last year, too.
He did. So, you know, kudos to Harrison. Played a great series. Byron Buxton, you know, a guy that's been struggling a lot for the Twins. Again, it's a tough series. Whenever Johan Duran's coming out of the Twins bullpen, it's unlikely you're scoring runs. We saw that. Mets fans who weren't familiar with Johan Duran saw that 97-mile-an-hour splitter and that 100-plus-mile-an-hour fastball. That is just a deadly, deadly combo to face. So I don't want to harp too much on the negatives of what happened. I think that they speak for themselves. You know, and I think the guys in the clubhouse will tell you, like Francisco said on Tuesday, unacceptable. But the beautiful thing about baseball is, unlike the NFL or even the NHL, NBA, where you sometimes have to let a loss marinate for a few days or a full week, the Mets will be right back at it, coming home for some home cooking on Thursday night against the Cardinals. Griffin Canning, who was scheduled to pitch on Wednesday, He'll pitch on Thursday, so everyone moves back a day in the rotation. By the way, want to shout out Justin Hagenman, called up by the Mets, made his big league debut, and was brilliant on Wednesday. Came in as the bulk guy after Huascar Brazoban, who continues to be great for the Mets. But Hagenman did all he could to give his team a chance to win.
Yeah.
And a local kid, Voorhees, New Jersey product, Penn State University alumni. Not too many Penn State guys in the bigs.
First guy to make his major league debut from Penn State in 20 years.
20 years. There you go. Not a big baseball school. Huge athletic program. The hockey team went to the Frozen Four this year. Of course, you know all about Penn State football. The basketball program's fallen off a little bit in the last couple of years, but obviously huge athletics, not a huge baseball program. Justin Hagenman making the Nittany Lions proud.
Yeah, and you know what? Justin Hagenman is a great sign of what this team has done and the pitching depth we have, because we talk about depth all the time on this show. And I want to bring you back to a year like 2021 where you need a spot start and you're going to the Long Island Ducks and bringing up guys like Jared Eichhoff. But now you have a guy like Justin.
Jared Eichhoff's always catching strays.
I mean, look.
Poor Jared, you know?
You have to bring it up to just
Poor
show
guy.
the team. Look. The team has come a long way in the last 4 years, and it's just a good example of like how different things are, where you have a guy like Justin Hagenman that you can depend on to come up in this situation.
Yes.
We're not where we were back then. Last year, the weirdest start of the year was Julio Teheran.
Yes, he was. I remember, I think it was Luis Rojas who made a little bit of a joke when the Mets were in the Eichhoff days in July 2021. There were a lot of TBAs next to who was starting because there were so many injuries. Of course, DeGrom was hurt, and I remember someone said, it might have been Buck Showalter even, like we're trying to limit the TBAs when you have injuries and like you just don't know. And that Brave series where Eichhoff pitched, that was an especially weird situation. The Mets had a ton of games in a short amount of time. That was a 5-game series they played against Atlanta.
A lot of doubleheaders too, right?
Yeah, because there was a ton of rain in 2021. So that was a bit of a...
I remember all of Memorial Day weekend got washed.
Saturday did not, because James McCann had 5 hits that night.
But the rest, it was like Friday and Sunday both got washed.
Yes, against the Braves. And one of those was the makeup that caused the 5-game series. But back to your point, the Mets no longer have those TBAs anymore. The Mets now are flush with options. And if it weren't Hagenman, it could have been Blade Tidwell, who it technically couldn't have been Blade Tidwell because he pitched on Tuesday, pitched well, by the way. It couldn't have been Brandon Sproat because he pitched on Saturday, so he wasn't really an option. But he's a guy who, in a pinch, the Mets could turn to. Not that they want to have him make his big league debut in a rush situation, but he's another option. And the Mets also, if they really wanted to, although you don't want to because you have so many days or consecutive games without a day off that you can't burn your bullpen out with a bullpen game. But let's say it was a Wednesday and the Mets had Thursday off and we're coming home Friday. They probably could have gone with the bullpen game because they have so many guys that can give you multiple innings at a time. So a Max Kranick could have started with 2, or Brazoban give you 2, and then Budo comes in, gives you 2. They didn't have to do that. They didn't want to do that, obviously, because they're playing on Thursday. But they do have options, and that speaks to the job David Stearns has done, loading up this entire organization with pitching and the overall coaching staff. Just, there's a lot of guys. They are rich with options, and that's what a good organization does.
Yeah, and I mean, if you especially take into consideration the fact that Sean and I and Frankie Montas are both on the injured list right now, so you're going down like another 3 guys on the depth chart right now when you think about just like pure numbers of like, how many spots are you having to make up for that you had accounted for at the beginning of the season. So if we're at this point where this is by all technicalities, a third person in Griffin Canning missing the start, a third person missing their starts. And we're at a point where we have a guy like Justin Hagenman who's able to come up and take over that spot for the day. This team is in a really good position, and we've seen how good this bullpen is. So even when you heard maybe there was a possibility of a bullpen game, it's not like past years. You hear that we might have a bullpen game, and you're kind of like, oh, well, I saw that work out for the Dodgers quite a bit last year, and I really trust this bullpen.
There's a negative connotation about bullpen games. Bullpen games can be very, very successful because you're passing the baton off. Everyone's giving it their best in the one inning. You got a bunch of different guys with different looks, which is nice. The starting pitcher goes 2, maybe 3 times through. Guys are getting the same look over and over and over again. With a bullpen game, it's not like that. With a bullpen game, it's, you have a righty throwing 98, then you got a Danny Young coming at you, then you got a righty that's spinning it like a Justin Hagenman, and then you got an Edwin Diaz or a Huascar Brazoban. Everyone's giving you a different look, a different feel. So a bullpen game is not a bad thing. Like you said, the Dodgers almost, I think, preferred bullpen games, but you can only do it and have success with it when you've got a good bullpen with a lot of guys you trust. If you don't have that, it won't work out for you. But, when the Tampa Bay Rays did it for the first time back in, I think it was 2017, the OG opener, you know who the OG opener was? It was Ryan Stanek. He was the OG opener for the Rays when they kind of brought the bullpen game concept into vogue. They did it because they had so many good arms to choose from. That was Kevin Cash's, he had a plethora of options. So it's not a bad thing. But like you said, Tyler McGill is going out there every 5-6 days.
Yeah.
He could have been a depth guy possibly, but he is the depth guy that's now taking the ball all the time, and he's done a great job. So I think we should put a bow on this because it was...
Well, I think we've already moved on to now. We're just talking about look, we took the first few minutes to talk about frustrations, but with this podcast, is, as we say, it's always glass half full, right? There are some positives to take away from the series we just watched, and there's some positives to look forward for the games ahead. We didn't even talk about Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes, 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, looked fantastic. Best start of his career so far. That's the kind of stuff we need to focus on right now because that's the kind of things that are going to see wins accumulate in the period coming up.
Yeah, I mean, Clay Holmes has been really good, and he really hasn't. The innings are, I think, where the Mets want them to be. For Clay Holmes, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We saw Seth Lugo pitch at Yankee Stadium on Monday night. Seth Lugo is now in year 3 since his move from a reliever to a starter. He pitched into the 7th inning to the point where Matt Quartaro left him in a game that he probably shouldn't have stayed in after he'll have 4 solo home runs. And after that, Matt Quartaro threw him back out there for the 7th inning. But it went to show that he is now full built up as a starting pitcher. Clay Holmes is in year 1 of that transition.
Yeah.
Jordan Hicks is in year 2 of that transition. So I think that, especially what we saw with Sean Manaea last year, you want to keep everybody fresh. That's the name of the game. It is truly a marathon over 162, and when you have postseason aspirations, you need to stay fresh. That's why it's important to have guys that can, pencil in here 6, 7, 8 starters, just options depth-wise to keep a guy like Clay Holmes nice and healthy. But he's had a great spot with the innings, and I think the Mets will try to push him a little bit more right now in early April, especially. I told you, I looked at the weather Monday night, by far the coldest night in this series. Chilly night. You don't want to overdo it. Clay Holmes, the Mets got 5 great innings out of him, got himself into some trouble, worked out of trouble. Another good start for Clay Holmes.
And I want to talk about that bases loaded jam he got into because we talked a lot about this with some minor leaguers, Blade Tidwell specifically, talking about the pitcher's mentality of getting into a situation where your back is up against the wall and what kind of mentality that puts you in and the overdrive you get into. And watching Clay Holmes get out of that with a single run, with a lone run, gave me so much confidence in Clay and so much grit and so much there, so much stuff. So I just don't think it can be oversighted how positive a performance we had from Clay Holmes.
Yeah, another one, and you see a lot more conversation around his name. Came up with a huge hit on Wednesday, is Luisangel Acuña, who over the last 6 games has a 935 OPS, an on-base percentage over 450 in that span. He's stolen 4 bases. He's walked 3 times. We talked about the big game tying hit. And with Acuña, it's interesting to see how the Mets handle things. With Jose Siri out for the foreseeable future, the tibia, the fractured tibia. We hope Jose gets well soon. An electric player we all saw. Unfortunately, we didn't see enough of it, but obviously the foul ball, and turned out he did have a fracture, so he's going to be sidelined for a bit. So now the Mets, we'll see how they handle center field. Jeff McNeil has been rehabbing for the St. Lucie Mets. He actually played in center field on Wednesday, which I don't think Jeff's played center field in the major. If he has, it hasn't been very much. He has. Okay, so one inning in center field, but not a spot the Mets have put him in a lot. But Mendy was asked about it, and he said, we're comfortable doing it. But Luisangel Acuña played some center field down, I think, for AAA Syracuse last year. Jet Williams has played some center field. Drew Gilbert, who tore the cover off the ball in his rehab assignment in the Florida State League, now at the Syracuse Mets, a guy who had 10 homers and I think 28 games in AAA last year. So a guy who's proven he can do it against older competition. We'll see if he factors in here, but it seems like the Mets want to keep Luisangel Acuña's bat in the lineup one way or the other, and he's deserving of it. He's played a great second base defensively, made a nice diving stop on Tuesday night. He's done a great job with the bat. We just told you the OPS the last 6 games. He brings an element of speed that with no Siri, the Mets don't really have a lot of that, and I love him in the 9-hole. He is a quintessential 9-hole guy, and generally back in the day, I mean, the pitcher hit 9th, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a black hole offensively. Not the case anymore, and it's almost like a second leadoff hitter because if he's getting on base, then the lineup flips over, and then you've got Lindor and you've got Soto. So if Acuña's on base, and then Lindor can get on base, then Soto's coming up with multiple guys on base, and then we know that Soto gets on base virtually half the time. Then Alonso's coming up with guys on base. So Acuña's a great option down in that spot, the speed. He's been getting on base, doing a great job, great defense. I would love to see Luisangel Acuña staying in this lineup, continuing to make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Luisangel Acuña, it's just so interesting that when the lights are the brightest, like we spoke to him about in spring trading, that is when Luisangel Acuña really just thrives. That gigantic spot on Wednesday when the team is putting together a rally, trying to come back into this game. Who's up in that moment? It's Luisangel Acuña.
2 outs.
2 outs.
2 outs.
And he laces a ball and he gets the team back on the board. And all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, we're back in this. So Luisangel Acuña has just been a pleasure to watch. And it's that flexibility in positions that you've seen this team really focus on in the minors, which has made it so you can have a guy like Luisangel Acuña right now go into center field, possibly try out a few games, and it's not this brand new thing that might be even tougher for him to adjust to. And I mean, that's part of that, what seems like a David Stearns sensibility and a David Stearns culture of, hey, all the way up in the minors, start working on different positions so we can use you in different spots. We'll talk about some minor leaguers later, and it's a guy we've talked about for 3 straight episodes, but Chris Suero is a guy who catches, plays first base, and plays left field. That is what this team is focusing on at the minors.
All right, Vito, time now for the That's Electric moment of the series presented by PC Richard and Son. And in this series, I don't think there's any way we could not make it Hoodie Soto, which was a phenomenon on Twitter. Of course, Juan Soto on Monday night standing in the outfield, freezing his tuchus off and hitting a homer, and Tuesday coming back, hitting another homer, looking like his mom dropped him off at Little League practice, early April, 35, maybe 40 degrees. And we got our own version of Hoodie Soto right here.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a player actually wear a full on-field like AC collection hoodie, hood up during gameplay. Mets fans remember Hoodie Mello. Knicks fans remember Hoodie Mello. Everybody from New York remembers Hoodie Mello. Having Hoodie Soto just felt so good. And to see him get home runs on back-to-back nights with this new debut, I'm hoping it's cold enough to see that at Citi Field this week.
Well, Vito, unfortunately for you, I know we do a lot of weather talk here on the show. It's become a big thing. You got to check the weather. First of all, in the industry we work in, especially when the team is home, the weather is important. The weather dictates your life.
Especially now because we're going to be doing some rain delay centric content. So now I have to look at the rain and I have to stay if it's going to rain.
Yeah, by the way, I actually, that reminds me. I'm going to tell you right now on the episode live, I need the Jesse Winker interview for tomorrow.
Gotcha.
For Thursday. I also made a point to Vito that we got to say the day of the week, not today, tomorrow. It's an old TV thing. You got to say the day of the week. For Thursday, we're going to air the Jesse Winker in the pregame show. But yes, the weather is incredibly important. I think we're going to get some warmer weather with the Cardinals coming into town, the Mets coming back for their second homestand. So we might not see Hoodie Soto, but I do believe we're going to see Juan Soto hitting home runs like we saw him hit in Minnesota. So I'm excited for that. And we'll see what the That's Electric moment's going to be from the Cardinals series. We are excited for the Mets to come back home.
Now, I think we should take a second to talk about the Juan Soto of it all, because there was a huge story all over Mets Twitter from the New York
and
Post.
Beyond Mets Twitter.
Everywhere.
Everyone with an opinion.
Even in upstate New York, north of Manhattan, there were comments about the Juan Soto comments. And here's my opinion on it.
Let's hear it.
I don't think it's a big deal whatsoever for what Juan Soto said. I think Juan Soto's a guy who talks very straightforward, directly to the point. I don't think anybody in that locker room would even be offended or disagree with what Juan Soto said. I think we've talked about this even on the show before. I bet we've even described Aaron Judge on the show as the best hitter in baseball right now. I think you even said on the show possibly modern day Barry Bonds.
Yeah, so a few things. First of all, you having Juan on your lap's hilarious, and it's throwing me here. That's number one. I had to get that out of the way. But now the serious stuff. 1A, yes, I do think Aaron Judge is the best hitter in baseball, and I don't think anyone will disagree with that. But number 2, I think the context and the true meat and potatoes of what Juan was saying was not about, I miss hitting in front of Aaron Judge, because obviously he's hitting in front of a guy literally to this point in the season through April 16th. The second best in terms of the performance in baseball to Aaron Judge is Pete Alonso. It's not like he's hitting in front of, hitting in front of the
Jared Eichhoff.
Jared Eichhoff, or the 30th best player in baseball statistically right now, or the 4th. He literally could not have gone from Aaron Judge to a second player and have a better outcome than what he has to work with Pete Alonso. So that's number 1A, because that one was, this is funny. 1C is that everyone is so focused on Soto's side of things. The power isn't there. Well, number one, and I know Jeff Passan said this yesterday on the Chris Rose show, Juan Soto has had stretches in his career, if you go and look, where he hasn't hit for immense power. Yes, he hit 41 home runs last year. I believe he had 38 in 2023 as a member of the Padres, his only full year in San Diego. But he hasn't always been a huge home run guy consistently throughout his career. He still finds ways to win ball games because of his ability to get on base at a better clip than anyone in the sport. He is the best at doing so. And I think, and we've talked about this, it's not so much about Juan himself, but the impact he's having on others. So is not hitting in front of Aaron Judge impacting Juan Soto? Maybe, but I honestly don't really think so. But I do know that having Juan Soto in front of Pete Alonso,
You keep pointing to him like he's actually here.
hey Juan, has made Pete Alonso an early MVP candidate in the National League.
Yeah.
And there is so much value in that. And here's my third and final point, what I really think Juan was getting at. If you parse the numbers and you take a deep dive into what's actually happening, Juan Soto this year has seen the third lowest percentage of pitches in the strike zone among all National League hitters that have qualified. Third lowest.
Yeah.
He is being pitched differently, and that is what he was saying. He is not seeing as many pitches to hit. He is not seeing nearly as many middle pitches as he did last year. In fact, he has seen the fewest middle pitches. Now, I talked about the end zone before the middle pitches because no pitcher tries to throw middle. That obviously is an area where if a pitcher comes there, like he's gonna get whacked. So no one's throwing there, but guys are trying to throw strikes. Juan Soto is seeing fewer strikes this year than he saw last year. He is seeing about 7% fewer pitches in the strike zone than the league average. That is a lot over the course of a season. And when you are seeing so few pitches, and then you finally get one, you need to be even more perfect because you might not get two. So I think that is what Juan Soto was trying to say with his comments. His impact on the Mets lineup has been immense, even if it's not directly on his baseball reference page. He's still getting on base. He's getting on base in front of Pete Alonso, who is having a great season. And I think that's all there is to it. And as the weather warms up, he's going to start hitting for more power, guys. He is. We know his numbers at Citi Field. He's going to hit multiple home runs on this homestand. Big home runs against the Phillies. His first time facing the Phillies as a member of the Mets, where it counts. The big moments. And get ready for that. This guy is here for 15 years. We are so lucky to have this guy on our team, wearing the blue and orange. That team and its fans are jealous. That's why they won't stop obsessing over it and talking about it. And I honestly respect what Aaron Judge said.
I look, Aaron Judge, I've said this to a few people over the last year. Aaron Judge is my least favorite Yankee of all time because he's not my least he's my least favorite Yankee of all time because
you can't actually hate him.
Because I don't hate him. I enjoy watching him. When he got named captain of Team USA, I was actually pumped because I was like, cool. I could go root for Aaron Judge this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, next spring at the WBC.
You know, watch it, though. I felt that way about Jack Hughes with the Four Nations.
Yeah.
I don't like Jack Hughes. No offense. Sure, he's a great guy, whatever. Devil. Don't like him. But I was like, okay, well, you know what? If this guy's going to just, be a tyrant on the ice, at least I can enjoy it because I love USA hockey. Guy didn't do squat in the Four Nations.
I mean, we'll see.
So be careful.
We'll see.
Be careful. Because just when you're ready to fall in love with the guy, he'll screw you.
But my point is this. It's just, Aaron Judge's comments also were just nothing but class. The guy is a professional. It is fun to watch Aaron Judge play baseball. That is the truth. That's a matter of the fact statement. If you like baseball, he is very talented. Always has great responses. It's not like Jeter. It's not like the feelings I had for Jeter as a kid.
Right. What I liked.
And he's not overrated.
No, he's not. He's properly rated.
There's a big difference.
Yeah. At Vito F. Khaleesi on Twitter. At JMB9191. I stand with what he says. But no, I like that Judge said, I'm not doing this back and forth anymore. Juan Soto made his decision. He left the Bronx. He came to New York. Why? Because he thought that the future over the long term was brighter with the Mets. And the other reasons why, he talked about him at his press conference. And that's it. We leave it at that.
And in The Pursuit.
Go
watch it on Mets YouTube.
But that's all there is to it, guys. And, I know that we're looking for stories and we want to talk and we want there to be controversy. And we're exactly 1 month away, as we sit here recording this right now, from the first installment of the 2025 Subway Series at Yankee Stadium. And I know as we get closer, the volume's only going to be cranked up and amplified even more. And I get it. That's part of the fun of baseball and it makes for great theater. And it's great that New York baseball is as hot as it is. And him leaving the Yankees, coming to the Mets, when it happened, we talked about it. Landmark thing in New York baseball. We had never seen anything like it And the residuals of that are going to continue for a long, long time. And I think that that's what's happening right now. But all he was saying was he's not seeing as many pitches to hit. And that's the truth.
Will Salmon put out the numbers. Will Salmon did a really nice piece showing that literally in his entire career, this is the least pitches in the zone Juan Soto has seen in his career.
But I also think that's going to change because I think that a lot of that, the Mets have only played 17, 18 games to this point. So it's a relatively small sample. I think early on, the philosophy with other teams was we're not going to let him beat us. We'll let Alonso beat us. We'll let someone else beat us. Pete Alonso has, I think, proven and probably changed some minds.
Yeah.
Like Ali Marmol coming in with the Cardinals for a 4-game set is probably sitting there, or Rob Thompson coming in for a 3-game set, probably sitting there saying, okay, maybe we shouldn't put guys on in front of Pete intentionally, because then those solo home runs like he hit on Tuesday can become a 2-run home run. And if Lindor is on, then it's a 3-run home run. So I think that teams are going to start changing the way they attack Juan Soto, because you cannot just give him a free base, because there are good hitters behind him. And some of those guys haven't broken out yet. We didn't talk about it. Mark Vientos going opposite field, 104 off the bat. That's a great sign for Mark Vientos. Brett Beatty had a couple of hits. Brandon Nimmo is going to snap out of it as well.
You brought up Luisangel Acuña before. We didn't even talk 110 miles an hour off the bat yesterday.
Yeah. So what's behind Juan Soto in the Met lineup is formidable, although some guys are still trying to really find their sea legs.
Tyrone Taylor's put some really hard contact on balls.
Tyrone Taylor could have had a big go-ahead hit if it wasn't for a great play by Harrison Bader.
Mets killer, Harrison Bader.
Former friend. How could you do this to us, Harrison? Anyway, we're not going back to the Twin Series, but that's our take on the Juan Soto situation.
Yeah.
He has gotten fewer pitches to hit thus far. We think it is changing. Pete Alonso is an early MVP candidate. And just stop crying about it, Yankee fans. It's over. That's it. It's over.
He's ours now.
It's over. It's over. It's over.
Also, speaking of Hoodie Soto, this weekend,
yes, sir.
Hoodie Nimmo giveaway jersey.
That's right.
Friday night Hoodie Nimmo giveaway jersey. It's a really cool giveaway where you get a Brandon Nimmo jersey / hoodie, which, as Brandon Nimmo said on Mets Instagram, keep it cold, keep it warm in the beginning of the season, all the way through the playoffs towards the end of the season.
And if you like sweatshirts, Thursday at 11 a.m., the long-awaited drop of the New York or Nowhere collection.
Thursday at 11 at Mets House.
At Mets House, that is correct. Thursday at 11 at Mets House.
And then you can come here at the ballpark for the game. If you have tickets to the game, it will be at the team store inside. Stadium won't be open early. The team store won't be open throughout the day like some other times. Mm-hmm. You have to be here after gates open inside the stadium with the ticket. But yeah, Mets House, Union Square, 14th Street.
Yes, and gates open at 5:40 on Thursday night. So if you want to check out the drop, Vito and I are wearing the jackets. You got the hoodies, you got some crew necks, you got
some
plenty
hats
of
behind
hats.
John.
You got everything here. Sick hoodie there, t-shirt.
I like this hoodie a lot. I actually hadn't seen this one yet.
Take it off the rack there.
I hadn't seen this one yet. I like this one a lot.
The
with
two-tone.
The two-tone. I'm a big two-tone guy.
It'll always be New York or Nowhere in the back. So you guys have been asking for it. The Mets continue to absolutely crush when it comes.
Nice t-shirts too, if you can see on the coffee table.
When it comes to collaborations and just giving you guys different things to wear. We all love our tried and true baseball jersey, but sometimes you want to, let's say you're going on a date, right? You might not want to wear the Henry Mejia Las Vegas 51s jersey all the time. I know I do, but not everyone does. So you might want to wear and rep your Mets, but also look nice and cool. And you can do so by repping this amazing New York or Nowhere swag that is dropping Thursday at 11 at Mets House in the city, 11 a.m. And then right here at Citi Field on Thursday night and beyond. But you're going to want to get in line early because there's a lot of people online saying, I saw one really good tweet. I think it was Kara Jeffrey. I think it was Kara. So shout out Kara if it was. And if it wasn't, I should probably remember things better. But Kara said, however much I spend on all this NYON gear, Mets gear, is between my credit card, my credit card and God. And that's it. And that's how I know a lot of us feel.
Yeah, I like this kind of stuff because, look, John and I, we work for the team, so a lot of our clothes end up being Mets clothes. Like, it's just the way it is. It's a nice thing you could wear to the office. We are in a luxury where wearing a Mets hoodie does count as business attire here.
No, I don't think it does.
It does here. You're allowed to wear it.
You can get away with it, but I don't think anyone's calling it business.
Not a business, but what I mean is, like, if it has Mets on it, you can get away with wearing it to the office.
100%.
So
not a tank top.
Not a tank top. No, and it wasn't a tank top. It was overalls that you wore.
No, but I have a Mets tank top also that I couldn't wear to the office.
Definitely not. But
the overalls weren't that bad.
My point is this. This is the kind of Mets stuff that I feel like not only can I wear to work, but John said, you go out to a date, that goes perfectly nice because it's nice. But also my wife is so sick of me only wearing Met stuff all the time because I have so much of it from work that when I put on a New York or Nowhere thing or a Siegelman Stable hat or something that isn't screaming Mets at your face, goes over much differently. So the blue New York or Nowhere hoodie where it just says New York or Nowhere in front with a nice Mets patch on the side, or this jacket, all of this stuff is great product. The material is also really good. This isn't like, I was about to disparage a brand, but I'm not going to do it. This is not bad material. This is good quality stuff, really comfortable. And yeah, so New York or Nowhere collaboration dropped. And one more thing we should push for this weekend, which is up here if you could see it. Saturday, 4 p.m. game, Mr. Met, Empire State Building bobblehead, and it does light up.
Do you know why they're giving that away?
The Empire State Building bobblehead?
Yeah.
No,
Do you know what's happening on Saturday?
No.
Well, if you guys are coming to the game on Saturday, we are celebrating Mr. Met's birthday. Mr. Met is having a birthday party at the game on Saturday.
Nice.
Yep. So we're going to sing happy birthday to him. I think he's going to have a lot of mascot friends there.
No way.
There may or may not. There should be another surprise. I'm not going to say it. I don't leak surprises here on the show, but there will be another good surprise from Mr. Met. So that's happening on Saturday. We'll have a DJ. Got DJs Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I like the new DJ spot.
Do you?
I do.
Cool desk, right?
Yeah. My wife had a funny idea for us.
Let's hear it.
She said we should sit out there in these chairs one day and act like we're getting bottle service with a rope in front of us,
Interesting.
like right by the DJ booth.
Interesting. Yeah. Let me chew on that one.
You can just say no.
No, it's interesting. You know, that's a dangerous area out there.
We should watch a game from there sometime.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
watched one game from there. Yeah, I was thinking how weird it is that like this season is like very similar in spots to last year.
I have a theory. My theory is, and I know that they use computers now to make the schedules instead of somebody sitting there by hand.
I miss that guy and his wife.
But I still think that they take shells of like previous years and bring them back and then move things around.
100%.
Because like the Mets went to Oakland around this time 2 years ago.
This is very similar to 2 years ago.
If you pay attention, there's a lot of similarities between schedules, especially the non-traditional games, meaning the non-division games. Like if you're going on the road, you know, the Mets went to Minnesota back in 2013 around this time. And I know that's kind of a stretch, but I don't know. I just feel like there's
No, you're
things
right.
that they continue, they roll over.
There's certain things like where we've ended in Miami. We've ended in Miami a few times. I think we might be ending in Miami again this year.
I haven't looked that far
And we did
ahead.
that a few years ago as well, because I remember talking, I think 2019. No, 2019 they ended here.
That was the Dom Smith
Yeah.
Grand Slam.
But I think maybe 21. I don't know. But I remember my friend trying to convince me to go to Miami for the final series of the season, and I couldn't go because it was my mom's birthday.
Happy birthday, Miss Khaleesi.
It's the end of September, yeah. Her birthday was the day of the Pete Alonso rookie home run record.
Mike Fultonevich.
I was here. Sorry, Mom.
Oh, so that you can do. That you can keep your mom's birthday for, but you can't go to Miami. Why don't you take her with you?
She doesn't fly.
Leslie doesn't fly.
Leslie does not like to fly.
She draws the line at grapes.
She does not like flying, dude. Not a flyer.
Well, I don't blame her. But
But
anyway,
I 100% agree with you. I think there's a lot of like how many times? I just said it ended in Miami 2 years in a row, 07 and 08. What does this team end against?
at home
the Florida
against the
Marlins.
Marlins. Yes.
But I think that was back when it was the husband and wife.
Oh yeah, they weren't using AI to make the schedule back then. No way.
I would have the husband and wife on this podcast. That is the most fascinating thing in the world to me.
The thing is, if you make one tiny mistake, like you need to, like it's a ball of yarn. You have to unwind so much yarn to go back and make it right and then do it forward again.
If you guys don't know what
Bad.
we're talking about, the schedule literally used to be made by hand by a husband and wife who would plot out every team's schedule by hand just with a piece of paper up until like in the last 15 years, I want to say.
Is that when they ended it?
I think it was we're talking about 2007, 2008. That was 18 years ago.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it went to like the 2010s.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's my theory, is that they bring back a lot of the old schedules, then spruce in some new stuff. Once if baseball expands, they're gonna have to throw those bad boys out completely and start from scratch. And that's when I want to see baseball realign.
I know you do. And I like what you were putting out there.
I want Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies, Blue Jays, Orioles, probably the Nationals, definitely. I think that's 7. And then maybe the Pirates.
I think every sport at this point should honestly just be East versus West.
I think you should get away with the leagues. You don't need the league anymore. You have got the DH all over the place. There's always one interleague game. We don't need the leagues. Just give me 4 divisions.
Yeah.
Division winners move on. You have a couple wild card teams,
but also
that's it. You boogie on, and you have incredible rivalries all year long.
East versus West just makes so much more sense, like from a scheduling standpoint, from a travel standpoint,
right?
And also, like, this is my take on the schedule. East Coast teams should only play West Coast teams on the weekends,
so you could stay up and watch it.
Yeah, like on a Tuesday night, if I have to stay up till 1 a.m., I'm in a bad mood.
Oh, it's a non-starter for me. I mean, especially with the Rangers being, having the kind of year that they had, but they made a couple West Coast trips where it was like, I am not watching a second of that.
So imagine if it was only on the weekends. It would make life much easier. I know, like back when I was in college and stuff, and I would just be out at a bar anyway. You know how pumped I would be when the team was on the West Coast and I was at a bar and I would just be able to like look up and watch it when I was out with people?
Yeah.
We've gotten really off track on this one.
That's fine. I mean, it's been a while since we've gone totally off.
Yeah, tangents have not been a thing lately.
We're not, Hunter left, so we don't even know what time we're at here. This might be like an hour plus. People are going to be upset.
I wonder what people are going to think of this.
He's just still sitting on your lap.
Well, because I felt weird just like throwing it into the side.
You want to talk about future of Flushing, then we can wrap this up?
I would love to talk about future of Flushing.
Let's do that.
I mean, dude, one of my favorite things I saw from the last few days, AJ Ewing been on an absolute tear. Position player of the week for Mets minor league players. But just incredible swim move in a game and just knocking the cover off the ball. Him and Chris Suero just keep coming up on this segment because those guys are just dominant right now.
Yep, and Ewing's teammate, Colin Houck, who people cannot be forgetting about Colin Houck, the Mets' first-round draft pick. Just 2 years ago, he struggled in his first full season of pro ball in 2024. And I think this also speaks to how rich the Mets system is with talent, that Colin Houck has dropped a bit on some prospect lists, but he's off to a really nice start. Had a homer off the batter's eye at straightaway center field. I think it was 422. Also tripled on Tuesday night. So he's off to a nice start. And Marco Vargas, who the Mets acquired in the David Robertson deal a couple years ago from the Marlins. Vargas is off to a great start as well. Injuries hampered him last year. Hitting over 400 so far. Playing a great shortstop up the middle. So you got Vargas, you've got Jet Williams, you've got Jeremy Rodriguez. The Mets, I'm telling you guys, there is so much to be excited about, and that's just the lower part of the system.
We brought up the position player of the week. Want to bring up the pitcher of the week, which is Jack Weniger, who is a guy who really shot up on some people's rankings from last season to today. But Jack Weniger having a really good week over in Binghamton.
Yep, Weniger, a couple great starts. Jonathan Santucci had another great start for the Cyclones, his second start of the year. Nate Doan pitched today. He pitched really well. Will Watson has really caught a lot of attention after his incredible season debut, pro debut. And those are just a few names. We talked about Yoander Suarez on Sunday, Nolan McLean. So up and down the system.
Blade Tidwell had a good start.
So really up and down the system. The Mets have a lot going on.
Blade Tidwell start hampered by weather. Hail.
I saw that it was only a 5-inning game.
Hail.
Yeah. What the hail?
Hail, I don't have you. I feel like I've not been here for a hailstorm during a game.
Well, no, but we're also not in Syracuse.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, hail is the worst of the weather.
It's not good
Because it hurts.
It's not what you want.
It hurt. Like when it hits you, it hurts.
Well, yeah, they're ice balls falling from the sky.
falling from the sky, hitting you in the face.
Yeah, I know. It's bad. It's bad news.
Hail sucks.
What the hail?
Boo hail.
What the hail? Also want to shout out Jesus Baez, who's up with the Cyclones now.
Really cool.
Guy that hits the crap out of the ball. So, dude, Brooklyn is the place to be.
Go watch. I mean, like, we should go sooner rather than later. Next road trip, we should go see. Well, we have to see because they're always home at the same time, which is frustrating.
Not always, but we need to wait for the weather to warm up. It being off the ocean, you've got to have a summer.
Yeah, I know. I went 2 weeks ago. It's brutal.
I want to see the fireworks. That's what I want to see.
The surprise fireworks.
That's what I want to see. But let's talk a little bit about the Cardinals series coming up here. The Cardinals are a bit of a surprise team. Nolan Arenado is a bit of a resurgent guy. There were a lot of trade rumors surrounding his name. And he's hitting for a lot more power so far this year than he did last year. Shoulder seems to be healthy, so the Cardinals probably happy that they held on to him. The NL Central starting to take shape. The Cubs, they went into LA. They beat the crap out of the Dodgers last weekend. They earned a big win against the Padres in extra innings on Tuesday night. So the Cubs look good. The Cincinnati Reds, definitely a team to look out for. Hunter Green, an early Cy Young candidate. Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo in that starting rotation. They throw the ball real well. I think they have the second best starting pitching rotation behind only the Mets so far this year. The offense still trying to work it out, but in Great American Ballpark, doesn't take much to hit one out there. So the Reds are a good team. And then you have the St. Louis Cardinals, who, the wild card picture is going to be fascinating in the National League. because you've got the Phillies and the Mets, and I still think the Braves, I don't think we can count the Braves out.
No, it's stupid at this point after we saw what the Mets did last year to count any team out. Also, if you remember 21, the Braves got off to a terrible start and still ended up winning the division. So, like, just Mets fans, just like, just
Strider coming back. Acuña still, Ronald Acuña Jr. still not back. So
anybody can go on a run.
Anyone can go on a run. Then you got the NL West, which obviously the Dodgers, although they've stumbled upon some tough times here. The Giants keep winning ball games. The Diamondbacks are for real. That is a scary, scary team. So, I mean, Corbin Carroll, I keep talking about MVPs. Corbin Carroll might be atop the list right there with Pete Alonso, early MVP candidate in the National League. And of course, then the Padres, who are off to an incredible start, just lost at home for the first time on Tuesday night. They were 11-0 to start the season at home. So they've got it going on. And then in the Central, the Cubs, the Reds, the Cardinals. So we've got a lot of good teams in the National League. It is not fair. This is part of the reason why I want the realignment.
The National League is so much tougher than the American League. I mean, last year, it was the talk of the playoffs was that whoever won the NL was going to win the World Series. And, you know, like, that's not taking shots at anybody. That's just like, it was very obvious from the start.
For a second, I got a little nervous there. But so all these games are big. You know, the American League games, yes, they all count.
It's going to be wild this weekend.
Yeah, big crowds coming this weekend. And I think on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as the Mets and Phillies reacquaint for the first time since the postseason last year, I'm sure there'll be a lot of Phillies fans here. But a big homestand for the Mets, 7 games. As we mentioned, Griffin Canning, after he was scratched on Wednesday, he's going to go Thursday. Then David Peterson, and then Kodai Senga and Clay Holmes. And for the Cardinals, it's going to be Andre Palante on Thursday, has the highest ground ball rate in Major League Baseball to point this season. 69% of his batted balls have been on the ground, so we'll see if the Mets can elevate some. He doesn't allow many fly balls. The Mets pitching staff, we talked about this in the last episode. I'll update it right now. They allowed just 1 home run in the Twin Series. They have allowed only 8 home runs. That is absolutely insane. Miles Michaelis, who's gotten off to a kind of a tough start for the Cardinals, he'll go on Friday. Matthew Liberatore mentioned he allowed the walk-off homer to Mark Vientos last April, was pitching out of the bullpen for the Cardinals last year, in the rotation now. Off to a nice start. He'll be going Saturday, and it'll be Sonny Gray going for the Cardinals on Sunday, former New York Yankee.
Yorker.
That's right. Steven Matz pitched on Wednesday, so the Mets will miss Steven Matz.
Have we seen Steven Matz here since he left? We saw him in St. Louis, right?
He came back with the Blue Jays in 2021.
No, but has he pitched here since he left?
Oh, he was a Met in 21. Has he pitched here? I think so.
Okay.
I believe so.
Because I remember playing against him on the road.
I think he's pitched here.
Okay.
We've definitely given him a welcome back.
Yeah.
I believe he has, yes.
All right.
So
it's going to be a fun week in Citi Field. Like you said, packed crowds. And you know what we're going to see in this homestand? We're going to probably see this guy's first home run at Citi Field.
I hope so. I fully expect it. It's just a matter of, to me, not if, but when, how many at-bats. I say in his... You know what? I'm going to buck the trend. I just told you that Andre Palante doesn't allow many fly balls. He's going deep against Palante. How about that?
So how many at-bats?
Second at-bat on Thursday.
Okay.
Second at-bat.
I'm going to Price is Right you.
Okay, you're going to go 1.
First at-bat.
Yeah. He almost had another one on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
He just missed it.
I know. I mean, everybody was... I don't know what it was about that. Well, like, everybody was just
we can't stop talking about it.
Just missing. But... Look, we got to get out of here, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you at the ballpark this week. I mean, I said it before. John and I will be here Saturday. I will tweet out what section we're going to be in hanging out.
And before we get out of here, everybody, just a quick reminder to head to your local PC Richard & Son this week. They're local, family-owned, and we trust them to have the guaranteed lowest prices and friendly and knowledgeable salespeople for appliances, TV, electronics, mattresses. Get to PC Richard & Son, the company you can trust since 1909.
And I've bought my last 3 TVs from PC Richard & Son, and I'll buy my next 5 from there as well.
I bought my last one from there too.
It's the great, like, I'm not doing this as a read. I've bought my TVs from there. Every TV I've bought for the last, my last two were Samsungs. Before that, I don't even remember. My mother-in-law needed a TV. I brought her there a month ago, got her a new TV there.
Got my LG from there. I had a great experience.
I love PC Richard. So thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time at the Apple.